Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Breaking Uneven podcast. We love to talk shop, uncover the beauty of failures, and play a few games. Today, we have with us Sameer Seth and Yash Bhanage. Their story started with a meet cute at Cornell University and followed on with distinguished careers in hospitality. Today, they're the folks behind Hunger Inc. Well, actually, they're the folks behind Bombay Canteen, Pedro, and Bombay Sweet Shop. Have we missed anything noteworthy from your journeys so far?
Well, we just opened Veronica's in Bandra
Right.
a couple of months back, and then we also run an online food magazine called Enthucutlet.
Yes. So Veronica's and enthucutlet. We're going to get to that in the conversation. But yes, those two are the latest out of Hunger Inc. So to get started, let's play a quick little game to understand Hunger Inc. a little better.
So yeah, Twitter is known for its 280 character limit on every tweet, which sometimes makes it a little difficult to convey your thoughts. It takes about 20 seconds to speak 280 characters. So we transfer this challenge to you to explain to us Hunger Inc. in 20 seconds. But we won't make it easy. You also need to use one emoji and one hashtag in your tweet. Any questions?
I think this is
I don't
right
think we
up.
need
Yeah, this is right
one.
up Yash's alley.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever used 140 characters in a tweet other than if I was like bitching about roads or something. But yeah, sounds cool. You might need to explain to Sam what Twitter is.
Yeah, exactly.
You might need to explain to Sam what Twitter is. Um,
Cool. So we'll kick off with you, Yash, and then Sam, you're going to have to give it an attempt as well, huh?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So let me know when you're ready and I will start
yeah,
the stopwatch.
Hunger Inc. is an emotional food experiences company trying unsuccessful attempts at making profitable ventures. Emoji crying with lots of tears and thing, and enjoying life, dancing emoji, wine glass emoji on the way. Hashtag I don't fucking learn every day.
Uh, you're in a good mood.
Gosh, it seems like you've had a tough week and tough morning meetings
As in,
today.
you know what? You really want me to give you like a Wariku kind of thing, then I would have said. We are on an emotional journey to learn every day. Every day is a challenge and we come out shining. And hashtag we learn to succeed.
No, I love the reality of it. I think that's amazing. I love it.
After I can't top that. There is no chance of me topping that. I don't even
You
know.
can give a philosophical one, which
Yeah.
they can actually use. I think
No,
mine will only come on the reels for climax, and on the pad podcast it's missing.
I think you hit the nail on the
It's
head.
like I was telling my PR person, and the interview questions come, and then I was like, the first four I'll answer, the last three just write what you want because what I say they're never going to put it on the newspaper, so you might as well give him the PG stuff.
We want the non-PG stuff here.
No, I've read a couple of the interviews that y'all did, and yeah, y'all really seem very hand in hand in those interviews. Like I literally read two interviews where there were two different quotations, like quotes, and it said that Sameer and Yash said in unison, and I was just like, wow. Like if I had a co-founder, I would want to be as much on the same page as the two of y'all are.
We physically hold hands and answer our answers.
I know, which is why this podcast threw us off. We had to
Yeah.
go to separate rooms.
Actually, we are sitting right next to each other. There's a partition next to us.
Okay, but let's talk about the start of this relationship,
Wait,
right? So, what was the?
So we need to do
I know.
a Twitter pitch. We can't, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I
So
thought
you're still in
I thought I'd gotten away with it.
Yeah.
I thought I'd gotten away with it. Hunger Inc. is a place where we sort of get together to like have fun every day and like to create food experiences which truly, hopefully bring people together. And we try to have fun while doing it, even though some days are not fun at all, as we have realized earlier in this conversation. Uh, I do not have any emojis or hashtags that come to mind, but you can feel free to add some, Yash.
Hashtag
Initially,
press release.
yeah. Sometimes one of us has to, no? One of us has to. That's
As
what's
in,
called.
it was
It's,
told to you 140 characters. Your
yeah,
first
20 seconds.
sentence only was 1400.
That's okay. You're there to edit.
No, too good. But yeah, no, this funny enough, both of y'all went over 20 seconds, but it's all good.
That will make it to the podcast.
But yeah, as I was saying, going back to the start of the relationship of the two of you, right? So I think y'all were at Cornell, y'all met, and then y'all had your own careers, right? And then I'm guessing there was some kind of deciding moment for both of you to say that, okay, we're going to take this plunge and do Hunger Inc. and leave the cushy world of jobs and whatnot. What was that deciding moment for each of you?
As in, for me, the deciding moment was that wasn't as cushy as it seemed. Doing a job for someone else, only we didn't realize that this is not that cushy either. But to be honest, like I think we'd almost like always joked about that if we ever move back to India, we should do something together. But the trigger truly was, I think Yash was in Singapore, I was in New York at that time. We were working and having a good time working for other people, but we also realized that if there's a moment to do something which is, and every job comes with its frustration, so I think it was in one of those nights that we started discussing, let's do this together. And we were exactly 12 hours apart, so usually I'd be going to work or coming back, and yeah, or vice versa. And we started gotten Skype calls to figure out like what we can do together, and then one thing led to another.
And yes, what about you? Were you in the same kind of thought bubble as Samir, or was it something else?
Yeah, I feel, to be honest, if how many years ago? 10 years ago? 10, 12
2012,
years ago,
20, yeah.
we knew like we were going to be telling our stories on podcast. I think we would have added some drama into it. But it was just like, I think at that point I was like a poolside manager or something, like, serving cocktails at a poolside. Sam was working with Daniel
At
Bulu, Danny Myers in
Danima,
restaurants.
yeah,
And
as a restaurant manager.
so, in terms of our day to day, we were doing the same of what we do today. Just the impact of our mistakes weren't felt by us. So, yeah, I was working in Singapore. I remember it was more like this frustration led call, like how long are we going to gissify it for someone else, and um, let's gissify it for ourselves. Yeah,
Yes, so similar sort of
yeah,
emotions, if you can call it
And
that.
I think it's feel the impact of your mistakes, but also feel the impact of your successes, right? When you're in a job, everything's kind of neutralized. So even your failures aren't felt as much, but even your successes aren't felt as much. When you're working for yourself, it's just like everything either boosts you up too much or takes you down too much. So I get what you mean. And so tell me this now. Y'all say that y'all were getting on Skype calls and stuff like that. So y'all had after Cornell like stayed in touch, and is this something y'all spoke about often, or did y'all reconnect after a while or something?
No, we stayed in touch and we were good friends. We would travel together. We would like all of that was happening, and I think it was just a function of like time. I think both of us had said we'll go work with some other people to like learn on someone else's dime first, and I think within a couple of years after Cornell, we felt that the timing was kind of right to sort of take that plunge and see what we can do with it.
yeah. I think it was someone or the other's wedding you were meeting at in
Yeah,
Dubai, and
yeah,
then just chatting about it again, eating at restaurants together. Then we went to London together.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
Um,
basically kicked it off by saying, like, let's take a trip to India. Let's take a trip to India and see what we can do about it. And this was probably beginning of 2013. And I think that sort of kicked things off for us, and sort of then started putting a plan of action in place in terms of how to slowly move back to India for both of us and try to figure out how to go about opening this restaurant, which was Bombay Canteen. At that time, it was called something different on our notes. It was called Tiffin Club, because we were trying to figure out like what sort of concept would work. And to us, like a club represented like you grew up in clubs, where Yash had grown up in Pune, I'd grown up in Delhi and Bangalore and Calcutta a little bit. There was always a club around where you would congregate. So that idea of community and the idea of like sort of using that conceptually to talk about the food of the country was something how this conversation kind of started.
And like for the Gen Z people listening to this podcast, a club is a gymkhana, not a nightclub.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought of the nightclub, so but
Yeah, I could see Janvi's face being like, who's congregating to eat food at a nightclub?
no, I got up after that. But like, yeah, initially I was like, okay.
Like, maybe he's talking about those. Maybe he's having pani puri shots at Fire and Ice.
But yeah, I mean, throughout like our conversation so far,
20 points for whoever knows Fire and Ice.
Anuj, are you getting 20 points?
No, right? It was one of the most epic nightclubs that came up in Lower Parel back in the day.
Oh.
It was where I'm pretty sure it was where Phoenix Mills now exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, no, like so far in our conversation, it seems that both of y'all were very like on the same page, I guess, about starting something together. But given that y'all were friends before and y'all met at university, was there any hesitation of like going into business with a friend or like straining that relationship? Like, how do you balance that? And have y'all like had any ups and downs? How have you navigated that whole relationship?
As in, whenever we've done a podcast or like done a story, we have started thinking about actually we weren't really friends. And we, we just knew each other for like 8 months because at Cornell I decided to change one semester to another location, so I moved to Singapore. And we just knew each other
And we all
and
got along. We hung out in
got
roughly.
along. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it was just like the love for food and drink and getting hammered together, which brought us together. Um, so I don't like we've had disagreements. We had disagreements day before, but it was like very petty disagreements. I don't know it. We've everyone talks about this like, and we both speak about it now that actually we just spent like 6 months together. And that too in university
Physically,
where
in the
we were,
sense that where
yeah,
we
so,
at Cornell. So
yeah, yeah, and but we just got along really, really well, and we have a very different way of thinking, which I think helped. Like um, so we've had disagreements, but it's been quite.
And I think to the disagreement piece, like the idea is that can you have a conversation after the fact, right? Like, yes, you've had the disagreement. Yes, can you sort of then walk up to each other and then actually talk about what you felt, what you thought the other person was doing, etc., and actually have an honest conversation about it, because that's kind of what allows you to sort of move on from there. Otherwise, you are stuck in each position, and that's that. And that's kind of when the ego takes over, and like my way or the highway, and that's usually where you see sort of partnerships go south very, very fast.
Yeah,
Um,
like our agreements also very ops related, like what template printout should come from the kitchen kind of a problem. Not like, like how founders fight over what color should the logo be or like what font should we use. Like we've like had disagreements. The other day we were disagreeing about where the softie machine should go in our new store. So it's very ops related
I mean, yeah,
disagreements.
that like disagreements overall is also healthy. Like it's not the other person just being a yes man to each other. It's more of like seeing what's best for the business. But I think it's also interesting to see how like to navigate that situation because it's gonna occur. It's just like as you said to me, like it's important like the ego doesn't come in between and like there's a broader picture in mind. But both of you also went to Cornell to study hospitality, so was like starting something of your own always like part of the plan in like this industry?
Yes, for me. Yeah, yes, for me it was, because I think the sort of original keyed off to get into this industry was always that let's run your own restaurant. And then luckily my start in the industry was with someone else, where really realized how difficult it was. So going to Cornell was with the intent that hopefully one learned more, experienced more, and to come up with an idea that'll actually work, versus just sort of getting into the deep end and then realizing that there is so much more to do than you realize. So for me, it was very clear and sort of Cornell was an interesting program also because like this particular program allowed you to sort of choose your own track of whatever you wanted to do. So I specifically chose F&B and entrepreneurship for that reason, because I knew I wanted to do my own thing at some point. And it was really good advice that I got even at Cornell from some professors. They were like, don't do your own thing, go work for someone else, specifically in ops, before you do for a couple of years, because without that, honestly, you don't have the nuts and bolts to understand what's happening. It doesn't matter whether it's the restaurant business or any other industry. I think that was like really great advice I got from a great mentor at that time.
What about you, Yash? Was this?
So like Sam also moved from the corporate world to go into restaurants before he came into Cornell, which I feel was such a brave move. Like, whereas mine was a very, I would say, traditional way of doing it. My father's a neurosurgeon, and growing up, like I really saw him work his way up. And some of the things he used to always say to me was like, his job is like a taxi driver. Like only when he is in the surgery room, the meter is on, and he needs to be driving that taxi to make money. So always think about if you're doing something, maybe you want to do your own business at some point. So I did hotel management when I was 18 from an institute in Goa, and this was pre-internet, so I don't even know why I made that choice, because we weren't like a family that went to restaurants and stuff. Like I grew up in Pune, so uh, s- I keep giving different reasons for what I joined the industry for. And I started working in a hotel restaurant when I was 21 years old, and I did that for 3 years, and loved it because I got to move to Bombay, salary of 8,000 rupees a month, which seemed good, but I just enjoyed life, and I at some point realized that needed to understand more about what it means to run a restaurant or to run my own business. And more than that, for me, Cornell was just a change on the way I looked at hospitality. I was basically a robot with like hotel standards as blinders on, just going on robotic movements. And then went to the US. I'd never been to the US before, and just their sense of hospitality blew me, where everyone who's across the table is an equal, and you can really have a conversation with people. And the way we were explaining food, drink, meeting people at Cornell, people who had worked in the industry, people like Sam who were coming from different industries. Um, I think I forgot the question.
It was just
Um, Also, somehow my dog figured out how to open the door, so he just came in. So I got very distracted. Sorry. Um,
no, that's fine. No,
yeah.
No, the question was
So
just
yeah,
so
that.
did you know this was something you'd always do?
So yeah. So then it was like for me, I was actually started as a receptionist at a hotel. Got bored doing it for a month, and someone sent me to a busy restaurant to help because I was the most junior person on the team, and I just loved it. Just loved working in a restaurant. Like it was such that energy, that feeling that you're always doing something. So that's how I got into it. I went to Cornell and I did, I think, operations management as my track. And I decided I wanted to go back into operations. So I started working in a bar in Chicago just because I just wanted to entrench myself with a new point of view into restaurant operations. So I guess it ended up well.
For sure.
yeah.
No, I think one thing that stands out to me from what you said, right, which I kind of want to link back to, is what you said is that your dad always said that his job is like a taxi driver, wherein if he's in that surgery room, is that's when the meter is on. So like the core idea behind that is that he drives the business, right? And I think what I analogous to what a restaurant has, right? So a restaurant has a chef, right? And much like that, a tech firm has a CTO. Now, a lot of what the tech firm does rides on that CTO. Am I right to say that a lot of what a restaurant does rides on the chef?
It does, but it's not the only thing. Like I think the difference, as in you can sort of take the analogy one step further. I'm sure there are other parts of a tech firm which need the product to come together, etc. Even in this case, it is truly that element of service and which is added onto the food, and how do you create sort of the right environment. We always give the analogy that it's like setting up a play or a musical, right? Like every day, like every you walk into a set, and every person in the restaurant is actually an actor who has to play a particular part, and people are coming in to enjoy themselves. So yes, the chef, don't get me wrong, the food plays a very, very important role. You're as good as the last meal you served someone at the end of the day. But what makes a sort of run-of-the-mill restaurant a great restaurant is truly all of those pieces coming together. It's not just about the food.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, yeah, I think in that you answered my question, which was that y'all have had, unfortunately, y'all lost Chef Floyd, and then y'all had after that Chef Thomas also leave, and I to the outside world, the operation seemed, I mean, the food as well is still top notch and everything. So I wanted to understand, I'm sure, like, was it a grave concern when they left, or did you feel like, no, we're going to get out of this perfectly fine? Because y'all did get out of it perfectly fine, but in that moment, how did y'all feel?
So I think I'll go back to how we built the team in the first place, right? Like Yash and I might have come up with the idea of Tiffin Club back in the day, but we were very clear we don't know how to cook food professionally. So it's knowing what you can do and cannot do. And that's how Chef Floyd was my boss at that time, and both of us genuinely pitched the idea. Like we literally created a presentation, we brought him on board, and that's how the relationship started. Like on one of those trips to India is when Yash met Floyd for the first time. I had obviously worked with him for a year and a half or 2 years at that point. And even moving forward, it was clear to us that Chef Floyd is not going to be here all the time. So there needs to be someone on the ground who will make sure that this food is executed consistently. And that's how Thomas came on board. But at the same time, what we've also done over the last 8-9 years is build a team which constantly is sort of building a bench as well. And so Chef Hussain was his number two, Thomas's number two. He joined us a couple of months after Bombay Canteen opened, and he's literally grown with us as well. So the reason you as a guest of ours haven't felt the glitch in the system is that thinking that there needs to be, like it's any great sports team, right? Like you have to constantly be building a bench. Otherwise, there is going to be a period in time where the people retire, people get injured. It's the same sort of thought process here, that at the end of the day, it is having that thought process where you're obviously executing in the short term but building for the long term as well, that sort of makes that happen. And obviously losing Chef Floyd was not something we could ever even sort of imagine in our wildest dreams, but it happened, and it's something we still sort of deal with, and we're trying to sort of at a personal level also sort of we deal with it all the time. But the good part for us is that there are extremely sort of passionate individuals within our team who want to sort of step up and do more and more.
I think I get what you mean, like building for the long term, because like my experience, what I've been doing is a lot of short termism, like short term thinking, and you get into this groove of having a team that works, and the inside thought to this is that that team and dynamic will stay forever, right? And you always want that to be the case. And of course, there's unexpected things, and yeah, I think what I want to put importance on is that thing you said about like people thinking of the long term. Is that something that transfers to other parts of the business, right? And as you said, new people come together. Is that something you think about when thinking about finance, accounting, marketing, logistics? Is that the same thinking that goes into those aspects?
In terms of the way Hungary has evolved, like we've gone from being just a restaurant company to having an e-commerce led Bombay Sweet Shop. Then we have a content led enthucutlet. We've had to evolve in the way we've built that team, honestly. So to the same way that Samir spoke about that, we've always believed in bench strength, right? And that was more from an operations point of view. You always had a great kitchen team, you always had a good beverage team and a good operations team. Things that we started learning ourselves, like logistics, for example, like during the lockdown, Samir and me did a lot of the deliveries ourselves, and it also helped us look at like even as simple as the packaging slip that goes on every delivery. How do we make that easier to read? How do we make that much more seamless for the rider? And where is the rider spending more time? Then realizing, okay, we need certain systems in place. Who is the right person to get in? But there have been like, something that recently someone told us as well is as founders, you reach a certain scale of your company where you think just going out and hiring a CFO or hiring an head of HR is just going to solve all your problems for that function. And the reason why you as a startup has been successful is you as a founder have a certain way of running things and a certain way of taking care of your team. And maybe just because someone else has done it at a bigger scale at another company, it might not work with yours. So we've learned some of those things is some of our talent has been grown in-house while some has been brought in. But when we bring in that talent, the most important thing to for us is will they fit into our culture and who we are and what everyone brings to the table. Like we've seen, like we did a tech hire, I don't 2 years ago, would have been our most expensive hire even now. Um, and it just didn't work. I think that person left in like 3 months. But it was just us as founders trying to be like, we have these 100 problems. Just hiring someone experienced in tech is going to come and solve them magically. So, one thing we've really built in-house is like a good creative team, like a branding, marketing, and we also work with the right partners to drive that because innovation is core at Hunger Inc. at everything we do. May that be in the dish that's served to you in the restaurant or a cocktail, or maybe through Bombay Sweet Shop or through the stories that we are telling through Entu Cutlet. So building that creative hub for the team has been a challenging yet fun progress for us.
Yeah, and I wanted to focus one point in the thing you said about y'all went to deliver some of the deliveries during COVID. So I listened to a podcast with the founder of Deliveroo, the food delivering company in the UK. And he said that once in a while he used to also go and do the delivery. So that's how he initially started when he was doing all the deliveries himself. But now, after it's grown massively, he still does some of it just to make sure that all the operations run well and how the restaurant treats the drivers and things like that. So, is there a intention behind also still being involved in the operations part of it, because y'all have also grown massively, and just as we spoke, you have a massive team behind you. So how do you stay rooted to like the everyday operations in order to make sure that you still know what's going on and can fix things along the way, or like know how the operations go and you're not too far from the daily operations?
It's a tough balance. I can tell you in our 5 locations which air conditioner is not working or leaking right now. But I do think I spend a lot of time fixing printers also. But so you will see us a lot during, for example, every one of our business has different peaks. And it's important for us to be in the trenches with the team during those peaks. Because if I'm expecting them to be working extra hard, I should be there with them. Same with Samir. So during Diwali, you will see us doing deliveries or packing namkeen or packing boxes because at that time, there's no point us sitting down and brainstorming on strategy. The point is we need hands. Similarly, with the restaurants, we just opened Veronica's 2 months ago, the first whole month from 8 in the morning to 10 at night both Sam and me were there, because for Veronica's it was a completely new team, and culture forms a very important part of who we are. So, and that comes a lot from the founders as well. So it's important for us to be there for them to inculcate that culture. And also a lot then changes in that first month in terms of processes, right? Samir and me also bring like a wealth of like 16 years working in restaurants. So you see something, you see if it can be streamlined, what can be better, but also from a guest experience point of view, um, can you get better at something? We just like, for example, I've been really impressed by Glide, the no code app thing. I tried doing it myself by getting a YouTube tutorial. Didn't work that well. But like just working with someone out of Pune who helped us build like a really good wait list app for Veronica's, because the wait at Veronica's is quite long. And how do you keep those people always communicated by when the table will be ready and stuff like that. So it just also sparks a lot of ideas. Like the only way you're going to improve is by being there.
And this is also, I think both of us are on the same page. This business cannot be run from an office. Like you, yes, obviously, as things are growing, there are other things to be attended to, but you genuinely only find out the problems as you are sort of talking to guests, being on the floor, looking at things that are happening, and it that I think is just part and parcel of who we are as individuals at this stage. I don't think we will sort of do away from that, but also like I feel in any business, like you just have to figure out. Like I think there was a from the same workshop we attended, like this gentleman was like, he's like, your job as founders is to bring sort of joy to the kings and queens of your business. And the kings and queens of your business are the people who are the final sort of touch point to the guest or the customer. And there is no way you'll be able to put yourselves in their shoes unless and until you are there with them. Like the delivery example is exactly that, right? Like to being able to deliver a product is like having then the understanding of what the person goes through, like how difficult it is to find that one, like that final address in India. We like it is genuinely hard, but then what can you do in your processes to help them out, etc. You won't realize that till you do it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And y'all have a massive spectrum of things that y'all do. So what are the differences in like the business models of the restaurants versus like the Bombay Sweet Shop?
I think the primary difference is the restaurants are physical, sort of brick and mortar spaces, which obviously went through their own sort of torrid time during COVID, where we had to experiment a lot to keep them afloat and keep that going. And at the same time, the sweet shop was actually a response to what we thought were the shortcomings of that business model. To us, we are both ambitious. We are both wanting to sort of do more things, but going and finding 3 to 4 thousand square feet each time to sort of and build a restaurant is hard for a couple of reasons. A, there is not that much availability of great real estate with great demand around it at any given time. Luckily for us, as in we've not luckily, but I would say we've made very sort of informed decisions about where to place our businesses, whether it's Loparel, BKC, Bandra. There is enough demand churning through the day, and that's what you need for a real estate heavy business to sort of make money, because at the end of the day rent is not cheap. But two, also as you're scaling, like one has to realize, especially in India, even if you go to like different parts of Bombay, it behaves differently, let alone like different parts of India. So inherently there is a scale paradox within the restaurant business where you can't just take the same concept and keep placing it every 10 kilometers. It does not, you don't have the same homogeneity of behavior, of taste, etc., the way you have in some of the Western countries which allow for this to take place. And it was to that thought where like we realized that what are we actually doing in our restaurants? We're taking Indian food traditions and reimagining them. And I'll let Yash tell you about how he came up with the sweet shop with that insight.
Yeah, so we were going through our churn of actually, honestly, Bombay Sweet Shop's idea came before Pedro, but we had opened two really great restaurants, great teams running it. And like Sam was saying, that fatigue was killing in of how often are we going to do a real estate um, dependent business. And we wanted to get into products. And to be honest, it's a longer story, but like at that time, restaurant companies doing products meant that you launched a hot sauce or you launched a makhani sauce, basically something that you were making in the restaurant, and it was a byproduct. You put it in a bottle or in a box and sold it, right? And I was actually passing through Turkey's airport, and I saw someone selling Turkish delight at the airport, and that person was just selling it with such passion and making people try it out, and baklava and stuff like that. And it just sprung on me through a longer thought process that why are we not doing the same with Indian sweets, right? We at the restaurants we always celebrate India for its hospitality, for its food, its ingredients, for its people, and it worked so well with what we wanted to do at Hungering, right? Like always celebrate India. And hence, like that's where we started going down the idea of creating or reimagining an Indian sweets brand. And that's our Bombay Sweet Shop. And what it enabled us was to take the same experience, flavor, form that we are known for, but to people's homes without having to bring them within the four walls of a business. Um, so that's the idea behind with Bombay Sweet Shop is like just to reimagine Indian sweets and look at different avenues in which we can reach people homes.
No, I think 100%. I get what you mean. I have a story here, and this is going back to what Samir was saying about like you can't take the same model and place it everywhere. I'm an avid fan of like doing road trips, and there's this like so we drive down to Bangalore quite often from Bombay because we have family there. Once when we were driving back from Bangalore to Bombay, one of our cousins told us that okay, when you reach Davangere, which is one of the towns in between in Karnataka itself, from Davangere till basically the border, right? Every 5 to 10 kilometers, there is like one famous dosa place. Stop at every single one of them, and no joke, between 5 to 10 kilometers, there are he marked it on the map and gave it us, and we stopped at every single one of them and shared one dosa amongst the five of us. Every dosa tasted entirely different. The chutney was different. Some were thinner than others, some were thicker, some had butter, some had ghee on it. The masalas were entirely different. And he said that is a representation of what India is. Right? You can, like, we must have stopped at, I think, totally about four or five of them. And I mean, yeah, it just goes back to your point, right? Like, forget, you can't take it from one town to another. You can't even take it 5 kilometers ahead and place the same thing. The tastes change that often. And yeah, I think that captures the idea of how, like, really understanding what is the purpose of, it's not just another retail space that you want because you want to grow the business, right? There's some core understanding as to why you want to do something in that place. And that to me is quite exciting.
To understand more about your journey with Hunger Inc., we want to play Two Lies, One Truth. So, whether it's a challenge or your biggest achievements, the idea is you give us three statements from which one explains the actual big moment at Hunger Inc., and the other two are false statements. And then Anuj and I have to guess which one is the correct one. So, given that it's two of y'all, maybe we can split the achievements and challenges. So one of you can do achievements, and then the other one can do challenges.
I feel my dog is thinking about this more than
It's
like,
okay.
like
Oh my God.
he's like,
Want to reset your laptop? I was telling Samir that we should have the dog as part of the podcast for at least 5 seconds. So thank you for fulfilling that.
yeah.
Yay.
Okay.
Which one are you
Sam, what do
taking?
you want to take?
You pick.
Yeah, I'll do achievements and you do
Okay.
challenges. When I think of it.
Yeah.
What have we actually achieved? I can think of the lies so easily, but the actual one I'm trying to.
I was just gonna say now
Yeah.
the optimism in Yash is coming out, but I guess still not.
Okay, three achievements. One is um, Bombay Canteen is part of Asia's 50 best restaurants. Achievement two is Bombay Sweet Shop does 2,000 deliveries a day during Diwali. Achievement three is a very famous, good-looking British footballer has dined at Bombay Canteen.
You're tricking us, huh? I'll tell you why. Because I know y'all are on the list, um, but I don't know what the exact list is, so that could be the lie. I don't know. I know during Diwali y'all have an insane amount of deliveries, but I thought that was more around. I think it was 20 to 30,000 a month. I don't know if it was 60,000 a month. See, it's all trick. It's all tricks. uh,
So the truth.
I'm gonna go with the third one, the
Yeah,
British
same. That's what I
footballer.
was leaning towards as well. The third one.
Oh
Is
shit, I
that
messed
true?
this up. I lied twice.
Yeah, that's
It's two
yeah.
lies, one
You have
Two
to
truth.
lie
lies, one
twice.
truth. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah.
So we're saying
Oh
the
yeah.
So
So that lie, were you saying that's the truth? The
yeah.
British
so
football
now
is the
that's a
truth?
lie.
No, you got it wrong.
Oh no.
So the thing is with Diwali, you need to remember it's like a peak of 7 days, right?
Mm.
So we do that. We are not part of Asia's 50 best list. So that's a lie. And we didn't get David Beckham to dine with us. I thought David Beckham was going to dine with us because this British Secret Service came and checked the restaurant, and then the Prime Minister,
What?
David Cameron, came. So it
Oh.
was quite a letdown.
Oh, interesting. Oh yeah, I did a very dumb math calculation for Diwali.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
why I did 2000 into 30. It should have been, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, that makes sense. Now the 20,000 figure makes sense.
yeah.
Oh.
Ah, anyway, Samir, have you thought of the challenges?
Okay, let's see. Uh, at some point in our journey, we were told to shut down shut down our business by one of our investors. We at some point in our journey we were woken up telling us that the restaurant's on fire and we needed to rush there, and we almost ran out of funds last year.
The first one is true. The investor is telling you to shut down at some point. That's mine. I don't know,
I'm
Anuj.
gonna go with I'm gonna go with the second one,
The fire.
the fire.
Okay.
That's the correct one.
Oh.
Is that was Bombay
Yeah,
Canteen,
that was
right?
Bombay Canteen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jahnvi, you should know this, yeah.
we were we were
It.
we were woken up in the middle of the night saying the building next to us
Oh
at Kamla Mills was
yeah.
on fire, and
Yeah.
The big
you know,
Kamla Mills fire.
The
Yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
above that.
yes, that one,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one,
Oh, okay.
that one.
Yeah. So I knew about one above. I didn't realize that. Oh, that Bombay Canteen was.
Yeah, it was one of the worst sort of moments, one of our worst moments in terms of like
Yeah,
getting
can't
to.
even imagine what that feels like. Gosh. The renovation for Bombay Canteen was well after that, though, right?
That was last
Like
year.
that
Yeah,
wasn't.
that
That
was
was
just
last year.
last year.
That was just last year.
I remember the marketing campaign. I mean, the Instagram campaign you're for that. That was something else. I mean, for people listening in who don't know it, they basically put out a reel that Bombay Canteen is closing down. And then I think it was, I don't know how much longer after that you all put out the another reel saying that, oh, hey, like closing down
It
for
was
renovation.
it was about 2 hours later. It was about 2 hours later.
Evening. In the evening we
Oh
closed.
yeah, that's true. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, going back to achievements, right? Big thing, right? I mean, Mumbai Indians collaboration. How did that come about? Like, where did that even start from?
Actually, one of the things that of having two great restaurants is we've been able to develop really great, heartwarming relationships with people over the time. And it basically started off with a very simple conversation. So, a friend who works with Reliance Sports, I know is also a football fan, and we had just launched on Namkeens, and this was maybe a year and a half ago. And just as I knew there was a big match that day, and I just sent him some namkeen from our side, saying that, there's I think he's a Barcelona fan and like enjoy the game with the namkeen, stuff like that. And I think we just WhatsApped each other, and he was like, we should do something next time with Mumbai Indians. And that's where the conversation started. And when this season was about to start, we just got back in touch. And so it came off in a very organic way. And I think that's the best way to do it as well. And for us, it's obviously a big moment because obviously cricket is a part of everyone growing up. And for Bombay Sweet Shop to be collaborating with Mumbai Indians, like we've always stood out for being a brand that's based out of Bombay, and we love that. So it's a big moment for us as well.
Yeah, I literally saw the ad today and I was like, wow. And I mean, I even thought about it. I was like, I'm speaking to them later today, and I saw that ad today, and I was like,
But
that's
did you order or
great.
not?
Yeah.
That's the bigger question.
I liked the ad. I don't need to order. I have enough Bombay Sweet Shop stuff at home. If I get diabetes in life, it's going to be because of those two of you.
There's some good
Yeah.
namkeens to just have a nice balanced diet.
Yeah.
I literally, after every meal, I go and open up the butterscotch box, and I just have to have at least minimum one.
Amazing.
But cool. Let's move to the next game. Now, this is again a thinker, but here this time we've done the thinking, so you all just need to answer. It's called red flags. The idea here is we're going to give you three situations. Each situation is composed of two green flags, so things that are going great, and then one red flag, so which is something that's not so great. And you have to pick out of these three which situation you would rather be in. That's the game. So, situation one is that you're all geared up to launch Bombay Sweet Shop. Bombay Canteen is running close to maximum capacity, but a national lockdown hits. So this is modeled after the truth. The other two aren't. Situation number two is Bombay Sweet Shop is at 10,000 orders per month. You're going to launch Hunger Inc. in three new Indian cities soon. But a rat infestation hits Pedro and makes all news channels. Finally, situation three is you just raised a great round of funding. There's enough demand to expand and an expansion plan to take Hunger Inc. to the United Kingdom. But one of the co founders quits Hunger Inc.
I'll take the rat infestation any day.
I would do situation 3.
There you go.
Which idiot founder is leaving when we are expanding to the UK? Like, I would be staying for sure. I could watch games live in Manchester.
I think the question was, which one would you rather be in?
Yeah, so yeah, I would be the founder who stays. So the one who's leaving now, you. So yeah, yeah, I wouldn't be that foolish.
Well,
Fair enough. Fair enough. So Samir, I want to understand. I thought that the rat infestation thing. So it's not like a deal breaker, is it? Because I mean, when we were brainstorming that, we thought that okay, yeah, that would be like a deal breaker kind of thing.
as in having been through a national lockdown, I definitely don't want to go through that again.
Yeah, please,
As
never, ever.
in ever.
Fuck no.
The simple reason for me was I don't want to sort of imagine Yash leaving, so I don't want to try to go through that either. And that
I was like,
infestation.
maybe I was imagining you in a happy, like you've retired, you're in Italy, sipping wine, kind.
And the rat infestation is here today, gone tomorrow in the news cycle, right? Like it happened. Like it's as in as in Yash's in front of Yash's apartment right now. The road is dug up. I was walking to his house the other day. You found like 5 rats like running through this thing, and it's going to happen in India. And I think it's one of those situations where you have to deal with it. So it's still something that can be sort of like I feel it's easier to overcome than the other two. That's why.
No, fair enough. I think, yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that situation for sure. I was actually more thinking that y'all picked the first one because y'all are like, y'all went through it and came out on top. And
Call
that's what I would have
call it
done.
PTSD.
Yeah.
Trauma.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I think this is like 20. So it was like pre your Bombay Canteen renovation. I think it was 2017. We had like a massive party at Bombay Canteen. Like our grade, it was like a couple friends' birthdays, and it was like the best time we've ever had. So I just wanted to like share that we the food was great, and like overall it was like right before we left for university, so all of us still late remember it so well and vividly. So just want to share
Amazing.
that. But
Yeah.
You know,
next,
I've fallen sick. Just
yeah.
stories of Bombay Canteen. I've fallen sick because of Bombay Canteen food, but that's a compliment. And I'll tell you why. Because I had four servings of the prawn chettinad, like the alio olio, which I'm pretty sure nobody in the world can handle. Like it's too much for anyone to handle. I had four full servings myself. I was in love with that. I mean, I still am in love with that dish. It was
That
something
dish is
else.
not going off the menu anytime soon, so you have nothing to
God,
But
worry
I'm
it's
about.
glad you
so good.
clarified your story and
That you ate too
Yeah, that's
much.
a, it's a compliment. It's a compliment.
Led with that.
yeah.
Cool. Let's move to the last segment then.
Yeah, the last segment is the rapid fire. Did you ever question whether Hunger Inc. was worth it?
Yes.
Yes.
Today morning.
Your proudest moment with Hunger Inc.
When Bombay Canyon was number 1 on the CNT list.
There's an Independence Day dawat we do, which we raise money for farmers. And the first reason we always do it, but we did it in the middle of a lockdown where all brands had to come together. And I remember the amount of money we raised, we weren't even making that much money in lockdown. But like for the teams to still come together and do that, like that for me.
What was your biggest sacrifice to make Hunger Inc. possible?
I'm gonna say age.
Yeah.
I think I've just like
I, I was
I don't
gonna.
know. I've aged like 20 years in the last 8 years.
I had a pretty exciting job opportunity in New York at that time, and the crossroads was take that or come here to do this. And I'm really glad I did this.
One word describe your feeling if Chef Hussein leaves O Pedro.
Fucked.
I was going to go with like devastated, but yeah, that describes it.
Your favorite dish at Bombay Canteen?
Actually, the prawns alio olio would be pretty high up there for me.
All dishes are my favorite, but the beef,
Like all your children.
yeah, beef podi tartar that we do.
Okay. Your favorite item at Bombay Sweet Shop?
The indie bar.
The kaju bonbon.
Okay. Weirdest place from where you have worked?
Yash's car. The conference car, as we call it.
Yeah,
We didn't have an office for
for
years.
the longest time.
So we would do all our calls sitting in his car. So
Yeah, because it
Floyd
had
used to
Bluetooth.
joke, "Are you guys in the conference car?"
Yeah,
Oh my god, that gives like Zindagi Na Milegi
Yeah.
Dobara vibes, where like he's has like his laughter.
We have done a lot of meetings in there.
and
So-
that too, we park the car very close to the restaurant so we can pick up Wi-Fi from the restaurant. So like,
Just to give you that image in your mind.
yeah, like we used to be like really like 4 people in the car, park it like very close to the restaurant.
Oh my god. Ooh, best business idea you will never use.
Yash has about 85 of those. You want to tell them about Laddu Ray?
Yes, I want to start a laddu brand called Laddu Ray. But Sam says we'll get sued by Laddu Ray. So
See, we at least had the same thought. Best business
Yeah.
idea which will not see the light of day.
yeah,
Would y'all actually get sued? Like, is that too close?
I don't think so.
I don't
no?
think so.
I think we should try it.
No, 100% not.
You playing catch with ducks.
You would look at his face. Look at this. This is my.
Uh,
This is what is happening
He's
right
like,
now.
throw the ball, stop holding it. That's the look.
The problem
Does
is I
he-
give him the
does
ball
he
on
have a
noisy.
favorite- Bombay Sweet Shop item.
He
No, he can't. As in, like
he's
he eats
he's
the
the
most healthiest stuff.
diets.
But he does get like a lot of bones from the restaurant. So, like when Chef Hussein comes home, I don't know how he just like knows that this guy smells of food. So he like
Extra love.
yeah, extra love he gets.
Would you ever retire?
In a
Yes,
heartbeat.
Okay. Which hobby of yours did your work kill?
sleeping. Um,
And sports in general, but used to at least attempt playing sports earlier. Don't even attempt that.
having a life, having a bank balance.
These were hobbies. These were hobbies earlier.
Oh my
Having a
God.
non-wrinkled face.
Books or podcasts?
Podcast.
Podcast.
An iPad or a notebook?
Notebook.
Yeah, notebook.
Are you a morning person or a night person?
I'm a morning person.
Depends. I feel like what do you define as a morning person? Like
Not after 9
I,
a.m.
but a
But
night person as in. But I think like if I say I'm a night person, you'll think like I'm an outgoing, cool person who goes to a nightclub and all. I don't.
no, are
No.
you
But
a
I
night
might
owl?
as
Like,
well.
do you like
Are you a night owl?
working till late in the night,
Yeah.
or like just staying up
Yeah,
till late?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And your favorite social media platform?
Twitter.
I stalk people on Instagram.
Yeah.
Did you
Fair
see the
enough.
unapproving eye roll from Yash?
Sam would have said New York Times.
Oh my God. But yeah, that concludes the rapid fire segment, bringing us to the end of our conversation. But right before that, we ask every guest to ask our next guest a question. So first, we'll ask you what our previous guest asked, and then you can ask our next guest a question. So your question is,
what the person's role model is and why.
Interesting one. Only because like I feel it's become harder to just have one.
Yeah, it's very difficult to have one. If you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have said Alex Ferguson. Um, but now, the thing is with every founder's journey is so transparent and you get inspired by everyone, right? You read someone's biography, you think you're Steve Jobs, then you read Dunzo guys, when you listen to his podcast, you're like, fuck, this guy is brilliant. So it's like, yeah, role model wise, I wish, man, I had this clarity of thought, but
I think I quite like the fact that it's the
Yeah.
stories around you. That's quite an interesting role
Yeah,
model.
because to Yash's point, like I think literally like 2-3 weeks ago we listened to someone really really interesting, right? Like, and we probably listened to him for 90 minutes, but whatever he said like just spoke to our current day to day and lives like so amazingly well that we've been chatting about that for the last 2-3 weeks, right? So which is why I said like it's difficult to have one, because I feel your window shifts as you're going along with it.
I think like social media and like just the access to people nowadays is so much more. So it's nice that like even like the stories like you get to hear are more of people surrounding you and are not only like the celebrities or the uh people that high up that you can't necessarily like
Yeah.
have any direct communication with. So I think like yeah, fair enough that everyone that you're inspired by or categorize as your role model are people that you hear about on a more like regular basis, I think, or like it's just like access
As
to
in,
more
yeah,
people.
yeah, exactly. And you have access to so many people, sort of like to the point Anuj was making, like stories, etc. And again, like, so the gentleman we've been referencing a few times in this conversation, his name is James Allen. He wrote this book called Founder's Mentality, And again, like, it sort of just appealed, like the 90-minute session that he did, like, just sort of struck a chord at many levels. So yeah, I think it keeps switching.
Thank you
Yeah.
both so much for joining us on this podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure and like honestly a hilarious episode speaking to the both of you. And again, like I mean, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you. It
having
was a
us.
lot of fun.
Yeah.